What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How is everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, August 9th of 2023? David, once again, you've returned. I don't understand why. What are you doing here?
You know, sometimes I just show up in places, and sometimes I just keep coming back to the same place just because it becomes habit at that point. So that's why I'm here.
I feel like you're essentially like the cancer, and I'm the white blood cell, and I just keep losing. And eventually, you're gonna like overtake me, and like, this is just a bad situation. But let's turn it into a good one. Before we get going, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go look for us on the socials. Go search the Alex Cuesta Show. You'll find us there. Before we get into this week's show. Last week's show, we had an awesome show. It was fun. We got to talk to a close family friend and the head football coach over at New Egypt High School in New Jersey, Steve Fentz. And he brought on his captains, Carter Hughes, Brian Lynch, and Aiden Healy. It was a really cool time, catching up with Coach Fentz. Dave, we sounded pretty old compared to those three, just reminiscing
we are
fancy stories.
Because we are pretty old.
Yeah, we are. But, it was a good time. Everyone go back, give that a listen, show Coach Fentz some love. This week, we have another fun show on, and I think this show is fun because I'm very curious as to what this guest fully does in his realm. I have an idea, but I think it's going to be really cool, and it kind of gets me back to my sports roots a little, Dave, which is always nice. I like to jump back in there. He is Nicholas Lemieux. He's the CEO and founder of Athlete.studio. What's going on, Nicholas?
What's up, Alex? What's up, David? Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Really nice to meet you. I'm excited to have you on. And like I said, I browsed your website. I saw kind of, what your website is about, but I want to let you explain right away from the get-go, what is Athlete.studio? What is it that you guys do there?
Athlete.studio is a marketing and e-commerce software platform for professional athletes. So we help athletes like Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Angel Reese, over 100 athletes across NFL, UFC, and NBA build their personal brand IP and also generate revenue through e-commerce and apparel sales on their website. So if you're familiar with Shopify or other website content management systems, we're like that, but specifically for pro athletes.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of them, Angel Reese, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts, but I just want to go down because you have some really cool people on your roster with John Jones, DeAndre Ayton, Scary Terry McLaurin, Micah Parsons, one of arguably the best pass rusher in the game. And it goes on and on and on. What is your direct relationship with these athletes? Are you working with them closely, directly? Are you working with their teams? Because all their logos are there. And is that something that you guys work with them as, also creating the logos?
Yeah, we work with them. Most athletes, I would say, they already have a logo and brand, but they haven't set up e-commerce or website or email marketing yet. But most of the relationships are facilitated through the sports agents. So we actually build our software primarily for the sports agencies to be able to offer design and tech resources in-house to all of their athletes. And some of the athletes we work with directly, or, we're in a text thread or a group thread after a game. If they have an idea for a t-shirt or apparel design, we can get that feedback right away. But most of the relationships are facilitated through the agencies. And my co-founders and I, our background is in building business-to-business software. So that's an area we're really familiar with. And it's been the key to getting such incredible athletes on the platform without having to pay, 6-figure upfront guarantee deals for an apparel deal.
Yeah, and I love the outlook. Like the layout of the websites is really easy and accessible. You see if you go, I was on Justin Jefferson's, it's official jjettis.com. If you go on there, you could right away, you can get to his apparel easily with his logo. And, I'll click on it right now and look at it. He has some cool things going on there. And then you can also see some press releases, which I think is pretty cool, and videos that he's been on. So I just love the outlook and, the way that these websites are. When you're looking to set up these websites, how much personal input do the athletes and their teams have in terms of how they want the website to look? Do you kind of go at them with a certain template and kind of work that way? How does that work?
Yeah. In almost every case, we go with a template that we have because we've got the formula of what works for a pro athlete, whether they're launching a campaign to raise money for a charity or they're trying to capitalize on a, insane catch they just had in the last game. So we've got kind of the playbook and the campaigns to be able to be really efficient and create websites out of the box that are successful. They don't take months and months to ramp up and generate revenue. And then for athletes, some of them do have a more specific creative vision, or they have another brand, like Aaron Gordon has a clone brand, G95, that he uses our software platform for. So if they have a more specific creative vision or direction, then we can build something custom for them. But for 80-90% of athletes, they can follow kind of the same playbook and templates and be really successful off the bat. And then we love working with the ones that want to take it to the next level and do something more custom, because that means they're even more invested in promoting and building their personal brand.
So, I was also curious in looking at this because I feel like the collegiate NIL has to kind of, definitely jump into your realm, because now name, image, and likeness collegiate athletes can make money off of that. How is that going with your model? Do you take a lot of collegiate athletes on and work with them now to try and make them profitable there?
Yeah, we've been working with, and especially through our agency clients, right? Because now the agents are looking for any edge to compete, to sign the college athletes, and creating your own apparel and e-commerce and personal branding is the easiest and most sure way to do that. So it's been a arms race that we've been wedged ourselves right in the middle of, and we work with a lot of obviously Angel Reese, but a lot of college football players and basketball players. But there are 180,000 Division I athletes total. And that's kind of what we see as our addressable market is we want to build a software that's scalable enough to where any one of those athletes can, sign up and create a world-class brand. And whether they go professional or not, we're their go-to business infrastructure platform. So I think it's going to continue to grow. And the other benefit of college is we build relationships with the athletes before they go pro and before they become superstars. So we're able to work with them early in their career versus, after they win a Super Bowl, where they're not looking at a deal that doesn't have 6 or 7 figures tied to it. So that's the other benefit is we cast a wider net and we build, because you never know, you could be the best player and get drafted to a bad team, or you could be, maybe second string on a great team that goes third round and the person ahead of you gets injured and you have a chance to step up and boom, next thing they're the next superstar on that team. So building those relationships in college is really helps our business model be successful.
Yeah, I feel like that's awesome, because that's, if any collegiate athletes are listening here, definitely go get a reach out, because you never know, especially if you're someone that is a star in a small school. You might have a regional impact there where you're known regionally and you can start to build that brand and go out. And I know I went to Marist College, and I know something like what you have here would have been amazing for the women's teams while I was there, because Marist women were, perennial in the NCAA tournament, MAC champions in the conference, and our ladies deserved to get paid. They deserve the NIL, and something like what you would have had would have benefited them, because regionally they were it. You had all the young girls in the area wanting autographs and things like that. And this would have been something that definitely would have hit strong for them. Now, I'm curious, have you ever thought about working directly with some of these colleges? Because I have to say, some of these college stores for the apparel absolutely suck. Like they look like they were done by like Flash and like old school, like not good stuff. I hope you don't use Flash. I don't want to offend you, but it's like they don't look great, and I feel like it would be easier to sell because one of the things that's cool about your pages is they look cool. They have some cool effects going on. Like you jump on Justin Jefferson's, like I mentioned, you have the lightning in the back and he pops up. Like it's a really cool right away thing that you're seeing it. Has that ever been a thought process, or is that something that you're just kind of trying to stick with the athletes for now?
Yeah, we've worked with teams who've licensed our software, but not the apparel side of the business. So they've used the marketing software, kind of some of the loyalty and customer retention features that we've have built in. We've worked with Portland Trail Blazers, Sacramento Kings, very cool, and been successful there. The apparel licensing with the colleges is a pretty difficult business to get into. It's obviously predominantly run by Fanatics, and they do an incredible job because they've got the scale that they do. And I think that if we do work with more teams, it would be on building a more enterprise software version for the team so that they can use that side of it, but plug in an apparel distributor like Fanatics. So maybe they could have the sick website, use our content creation tools, our design tools that are really world-class for the athletes. But on the back end, all the e-commerce is fulfilled by their current partners. So I think that's the more realistic approach we would take. But I think we have so much room to grow with the individual athletes that we haven't found we really need from a business standpoint to jump in and work with teams. Because once we kind of train an agent to champion our platform, they'll sell it into their athletes without us having to do any work. So we can really, I think until we've come to a bottleneck there, we'll continue to work with athletes. And then as team opportunities present themselves, we'll evaluate and see if it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Fanatics because like it seems like Fanatics just like overnight became like, here it is. If you want to get apparel from any team, go to Fanatics. And then you go on like the official store and it's like the same exact, it's Fanatics. It's pretty crazy how they quickly went in. I'm hoping that this is something like for you that overnight, all of a sudden, boom, Athlete Studio is where you need to go. That would be pretty cool. Turn into like $1 billion organization overnight. That would be fantastic. But so when you're looking for clients, when people are approaching you, are there any things that you look at and you guys kind of draw a line like, no, we won't work with that individual? What are you kind of looking for in a client that you're working with?
I don't think we've ever turned away an athlete for any reason, like political or them just being too small. I think we've done a good job of working with our agents to work with them to qualify athletes based on who's going to be successful with the platform. So they're bringing on the guys who they know are going to respond to a text message when they send them, graphics to post on social media, the guys and girls who are given feedback on their logo and their apparel. So they'll actually take photos of them wearing it and post it on social media. Yep. And I think that the level of agents that we work with is maybe where we have more qualifying factors because there's, 1,000 agencies, both marketing and contract agents. And we work with some incredible agents that I think know the type of athlete who are going to be successful on the platform. So I wouldn't say we're, really turning down any athletes. Just we kind of we know we need to cast a wide net and we got to continue to build software to automate so that we can eventually manage thousands of athletes with, the same team that we have today and not become an agency ourselves.
What if an athlete doesn't have an agent? Will you still work with an athlete that doesn't have an agent? And how does that dynamic kind of change if that's the approach there?
Yeah, we still work with athletes if they don't have an agent. We have a partnerships team, and I've got to know a lot of athletes personal as well. So many times athletes have actually switched agents and switched from one agency on our platform to another agency on our platform. Cool. And right, like their personal IP is theirs at the end of the day. So it's kind of like, and our fees are so low. Our fees are like a Shopify. We're taking, single digit percentages. We're not taking, 20% like an agency does. So it's, we have a team who can manage those relationships directly. That's, we can be equally as effective that way. So it doesn't make too much of a difference, but when you kind of, like I said, when we work with the agent and they champion the platform, then it's like having a sales force for us that isn't on our direct payroll. It's a great way to scale and kind of bootstrap a business.
Yeah, definitely. That certainly helps. And it's kind of like, good old word of mouth, right? Word of mouth, as long, you're giving a good service, you're providing a service, and, you're providing a service as top tier athletes here. It's not like, you're providing with everyone, but the ones you have highlighted on your website are just, cream of the crop. John Jones is arguably the greatest MMA fighter of all time. And there you are building a website promoting John Jones's stuff. So that's cool stuff. I can't say enough that I think your websites are really cool and people need to go check them out and buy some apparel of your favorite athlete. There's a good chance that they might be there. So if somebody's interested in getting in touch with you, does it have to be an athlete or can it be just anyone? If anyone wants to start something and they have like, us right here, we have a small little show, right? Nothing crazy. But if we wanted to sit there and grow and maybe get apparel with that, would we be able to get in touch with you? How would we do that?
I think we're probably in 2024, we'll expand the business beyond athletes to like content creators. And we've seen some of our athletes that have the most success are actually the ones who are also content creators. Like we have a pro snowboard client who's become a friend of mine, Casey Willax, and he's a pro snowboarder, but he also has 100,000 YouTube subscribers. Nice. And he crushes it just as well as a lot of the NFL players because his business and his kind of personal brand is his livelihood.
Base, yeah.
And you could put that on the YouTube videos. Absolutely. You could throw it up as a personal ad, like, hey, here, go on my website. And that's actually really smart in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So we know the business works for other types of businesses. I think, like I said before, we've just like working with athletes is so rad. We love it. And there's so much room to grow that it's been like, when we started the business, we worked with a couple musicians and like influencers, kind of Hollywood people, but that was a lot more difficult and, very kind of hit and miss as far as the relationships went. But we just love working with athletes because these are our heroes, the people we look up to. You get to know them personally and they're great people. And I think 2024 will foray back into the more creator kind of the space you guys are in, where you're building a digital business and personal brands, and maybe there's a way where we can plug other creators into our network of athletes and help everybody grow, because all of that data is on our kind of centralized on our platform. So we want to build on those network effects, and I think that's the direction we'll go next year.
Nice.
Yeah. Did you see a difference like personality wise and like communication flexibility wise between like influencers and musicians? Like you said, you started out with and athletes. Like, I mean, there might be some difference there just in what they do. And is there a noticeable like that what you saw?
The sample size of musicians and influencers was much smaller, but I think it was that, and also the business was very early on where we were like saying, yes, we could do something, and then going and like taking like, 2 weeks and like building the feature to actually do it. So it was a different time in the business, but I think with the athletes, it was just so scalable because it's like, the formula kind of works within the same parameters for everyone. Whereas musicians, typically through their record label or representation company, they have merch that does their tour, does their website. It was kind of a more saturated space. And then on the influencer side, I don't think we had a platform that was as self-serve like capable at the time, where somebody who's a YouTuber who wants to like log in and, you know, set up everything themselves.
Yeah.
We weren't developed enough where it could do that. But the athletes, it was like, you know, we were just making the agent's life super easy and making them look good. So it's like, yeah, let's keep doing that. But I think, again, I think there's, from a personality standpoint, the athletes, right, they're all just incredibly hardworking and disciplined to get where they are. A lot of them don't come from much, you know, come from difficult or challenging personal backgrounds too, to get to where they get. So it's incredible when you see these guys go from college to where they're making 7 figures, and it's just completely game changing for their family. So yeah, I think we've become addicted to athletes and sports and just like working in that space.
That's awesome. I don't blame you. Athletes and sports are awesome. So what are a few athletes that you've sat there and you've either been in like a group chat with or gotten a text from, and you've kind of had to pinch yourself and just kind of be like, holy shit, I'm actually texting with this guy. Like, have you had a few of those moments where you're like, this is pretty surreal? Or has it kind of gotten to a point where it's like, okay, cool, I just got to text from so-and-so? Like, have you had any of those moments?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I get too starstruck, but I was having dinner in Vegas a couple weeks ago with Aljamain Sterling and Rob Dvalishvili and their podcast producer, Jake. And that was obviously awesome to meet those guys. I'd worked directly with Aljamain for years, but never met him in person. I just happened to be flying out of Vegas. I was snowboarding at Mammoth Mountain for the week.
Nice.
And that was kind of surreal to meet those guys, but it's also different with that when you meet an NFL player who's 6'6" and 280.
Yeah, and these UFC guys are short.
The UFC guys look like us. The guys on the New England Cartel, Calvin Cater, Rob Font, their coach, Tyson, those guys are incredible. We've worked with them for years, met them. I paid them for a training session for our business I flew us all out to Boston and had them.
Awesome.
Everybody
go get beat up by Rob Font. That's great.
No, it was a blast. It was so those type of moments it is kind of surreal because you're you know, it humanizes them. But I don't think I've met any of our NBA athletes in person, but I you know, meeting a 6'8" person who's just like, you know, towers over you, that I think would starstruck me a little more.
I had to say, like, we had, like I said, I went to Marist and we had some 7-footers there, and obviously are not NBA players, but it's like, I'm 5'8", 5'9" on my license, and I sit there and these 7-footers, I'm just like, hi, can you hear me up there? It's like, they are just a different breed. And of course, me being who I am, I like make fun of them, and they'd be like, you realize I can dunk you in the net and leave you there. Like it was, but yeah, no, it is kind of
Space Jam.
Real. Yeah, they would like quite literally monstars me. And it is kind of surreal seeing like these massive human beings, and then they're able to be so freakishly athletic. Like, it's crazy. So you gave us a good segue into Aljamain Sterling, because Aljo has a fight coming up, UFC 292. This is more David's realm here, because David is the big UFC fan and also does train MMA. Eventually, I think he'll get in the cage, but he trains it. So Aljamain Sterling is fighting Sean O'Malley, and it is I want to say, very hyped up fight, a fight that people want to see. But I think also in a way a little bit of a controversial fight, considering how O'Malley got there. So what are your opinions on the fight coming up with Aljo?
My opinion on the fight coming up with Aljo and Sean is, I think it's the best fight that the UFC could make for the division right now.
Yeah, bantam.
Because Merab's hand is injured. Corey actually tore his tricep in the fight last week against Rob Font. Yeah. And Peter, that fight was controversial, but I don't think Not that they influenced the scoring because of this, but I don't think anyone wanted to see Peter and Aljamain for a third time. So
you could say it influenced the scoring. I definitely think it influenced the scoring.
And then Piotr goes and just gets absolutely dominated by Merab. So he just took himself out of conversation.
Certainly did, which is sad because Piotr's amazing. He's such a good fighter.
Those guys are savages, though. I mean, think about it. Merab, like, they had the game plan for him after 2 fights with Aljo. So it's they're two of the best, Merab and Aljo. They've got incredible chemistry. So I think it's the best fight that they could make for the division. And I think especially headlining in Boston is the perfect fight to bring here. And the undercard is stacked, but I'm obviously it's I kind of look at it like Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman in a way. I think it could end up like that first fight where there's a lot of clinch, a couple of takedowns. Possibly he gets Sean out of there. But I think Aljamain's fight IQ is high enough where he'll be able to neutralize the striking.
Yeah. I have to certainly agree. I always find it interesting, though. It's like you kind of don't want to say that the UFC is going for the challenger, but they're bringing Sean O'Malley to Boston. Okay, it's like, let's see where they're going with this. It's like, does Dana want to see that belt go around O'Malley's waist? 100%. But me and Dave, we are both Aljamain Sterling fans. I have to say, like, we both like him.
I was so happy when he beat Jan. That's time. I was so worried for him, man.
But we're both big fans of his, and I do think that he is going to beat O'Malley. Now, Dave, you could speak to this better because what do you think the challenges are for him? Because O'Malley is a world-class striker. Like, he can one strike done. Like, it is very much, he's one of those guys. What do you think about this one, Dave?
So I don't think the one strike rule is going to really affect Aljo unless it's a kick he doesn't see coming. I don't think a punch is going to put him out. I mean, he stood there with Jan for long enough to be able to withstand it. But I think as long as Aljo is able to take him down, this is a real test of O'Malley's takedown defense. But as long as Aljo is able to take him down, long limbs might help O'Malley enough, but I think Aljo is going to be able to cinch in a submission. Whether it's sooner or later, he's going to be able to dominate him on the ground. So it really just depends on if O'Malley can find a way to keep it standing and keep away from Aljo, but that's obviously not easy to do. So right now, this is just a huge test, another huge test for O'Malley, and because Aljo is just, he's proven himself already. He's proven that he can fight damn well. I mean, to say what you want about the Dillashaw fight, Dillashaw came in injured, basically held up the division, but he beat Henry Cejudo, who, he had time off, but this man was a double champ, an absolute monster in wrestling, and he beat him. So, like, he's a proven champ. He's the one that O'Malley needs to step up to, which I don't know if he can right now.
So, in your eyes, from your perspective, as Aljamain Sterling is one of your fighters, what is your role going up to this fight as being, his marketing and e-commerce team with the website? What is something that you do heading into this?
Yeah, what we do, it's a ton of fun with the fighters because we get to create designs that in some cases are trolling the other fighter. Nice. So we're creating designs in collaboration with Aljamain and his management team around this specific event. And then even planning ahead after he wins, what's going to be the plan after that? There's obviously the marketing promotions where, we blast the email list and say, hey, here's the special win promotion, use this discount code for this time. Mm-hmm. And then there's being reactive to what might happen in the fight. Like if there's a, signature submission or move or photograph we can get to create a design or concept around. We've got our team on standby to do that. But it's always great when the merchandise tells a story. In the last fight, we created a design for Aljamain where he was wearing a Team USA singlet and a Jamaican and American flag. And we were trolling Henry Cejudo's Olympic gold medal. And actually, Megan O'Leary in her interview on like Fight Countdown or one of the UFC shows, she commented on his t-shirt and said, "Oh, I see you in the, with the gold medal in the singlet. Is that a troll on Henry?" And that's, that's how we know we did our job, is we made it a conversation piece. So really it's a ton of fun with the UFC fighters. It's like if you ever dreamed of doing like marketing or branding when you were a kid, it's like, you can be really creative, and some of these guys want to, push the line, and that's always fun too.
Do you do any like pre-shirts like done? Like, do you do anything where you kind of will have like, Aljo's hands raised with O'Malley ducking, like that he can just wear like right away post-fight? Do you guys do any of those, or is it kind of something where you wait until the result happens and then mass produce it as quick as you can?
We'll wait until the result's done. In this case, we will have templates. We always have templates ready to go that have text lockups and quotes and things we think will happen. But as far as like a custom illustration, I think we tried to do that, and it was, you just can't predict MMA. So it was, and our design team is, awesome enough where they can turn it around by the next day. So I think in the future, we'd love to have like an AI assisted kind of design thing that could pump those out immediately. I think we'll get there, but for now, most of the stuff is manual, but we've got the process so locked in that we can turn it around quickly.
You don't want to be like one of those like things that like the Super Bowl loser shirts go end up in like some country that the kids wear as like the actual champions over there. You don't want that to be what you guys do.
We don't have to do that. We do have the winner shirts for the Super Bowl, but the last couple of Super Bowls we had players on both sides, so we knew it was going to work. It was going to work either way.
That's always good to hedge your bets. That's always awesome. So back to a little more about Aljo. Where would you rank him pound for pound? If he wins this fight, especially, where would you put him pound for pound in terms of, because, it's fair to say there's a lot of really good guys in UFCs. You have John Jones, who
he's number 6 right now.
Yep. Yeah, he's number 6 currently. Of Israel Adesanya. You have so many just dominant, really good fighters. Where would you put him? Do you think 6 is a fair ranking for him? And if he wins, where would you throw him up to? Aljo, don't listen if he says yes.
I'm not sure if this fight moves him up the pound for pound rankings. Maybe 1 or 2 ranks. But it's Sean's not tested against many other, fighters of that caliber, other than Jan, of course. So I don't think that would carry a lot of weight. I think what it does do is create a conversation, him going up to featherweight and fighting Alex Volkanovski. And that's a fight I think is interesting for Volk because it's another champ, but that's where I would really test Aljamain's pound for pound, ranking, because there, if he can beat Volkanovski, he would be top 3. And that's an incredibly challenging matchup. But I think that sets up that conversation, because even coming off of this, him winning in any way, there's going to be more excuses that this is, Sean's never had that level of talent. It was his first 5-round
fight. There's always excuses. When Aljo wins, there's always why he won. Not just that he's just one of the best technicians in UFC history, but no, it's always an excuse for why he wins. Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous.
So then I think with Volk, there's no excuses. If he's going to step up and fight him, I think it would be late, maybe mid next year. Aljo wants to take some time off after this one, but I think that it, maybe goes up a couple rank, but it sets up that conversation where he's maybe fighting for the pound for pound, because Volk is right now, or at least to be in the top 3.
Because Volk is a monster, and I think the issue with that would be Volk's strength. Volk is just might be like the world's strongest man right now. He's ridiculously strong and a powerhouse, and I feel like that might be like the only hurdle for Aljo, because I think technically he could match up with anybody in the UFC. So it'll be very. I think that's a pretty likely scenario. Dave, do you see that happening if he beats Sean? Just has to go up and try to get a better fight that way?
Yeah, I could see him going up, especially if Merab's serious about not wanting to fight Aljo, which he seems serious about that.
Yeah.
So I can see him going up, but that's also going to depend on whatever the hell happens with the lightweight belt. Whether Islam, I'm pretty sure it's Islam versus Charles, but let's say Aljo is still off and they get the lightweight fight between Volk and whoever for another double champ status. So it's a lot bouncing around, but I think after this fight, I think he'll get top 5. I think he'll at least jump Izzy because Izzy just won the belt back, and this would be a streak for Aljo of keeping the belt. So I think you have to give him that. But yeah, I don't see him jumping top 3 at all from this fight, but he definitely gets a slight bump.
Definitely does. So I do have to request, if you could figure out a way to get Chito Vera, or if you already have Chito Vera, because we're both Ecuadorian, and I know you could definitely run with Chito Vera apparel, especially if you guys are doing it. So, if your team is listening, go get on the Chito hotline.
I don't know if we work with Chito's. I'll have to look up and see who his agent is. I'm not sure we work with them, but yeah, Chito would be incredible. He's a menace. I love watching him fight.
One of the hardest fights of our life was watching him versus Frankie Edgar, because we're from our town is in the Toms River area.
Oh yeah,
he's like a hometown hero. But we love Chito, so watching him beat Frankie the way he did too.
Watching Frankie go get front kicked into space.
Oh, he just looked like an old man. The old man face that he made Frankie have. It was tough, but. Yeah, if you ever get Chito, definitely let us know. We will.
I'll let you guys know. Absolutely, I'll give you send your gift card for sure.
Nice. So I want to jump into the NFL because you have some awesome NFL players, on your roster again. We mentioned Justin Jefferson. I'll kind of go over some more over here. You have AJ Dillon, Chase Claypool, Kyle Juszczyk, which I love that you have Kyle Juszczyk, Kenneth Walker III. You have some really good NFL players there. What are your feelings at the start of this season? I'm going to put you on the line right now. Who's the Super Bowl champion this year?
Wow. I'm just going to do
that. Right away.
I mean, Cardinals.
Oh, I love that one. That's a dark horse and a half.
I like the left field. That's on record now, though, so you can't go back.
If the Cardinals do it, I will buy out a shop. I don't care.
I may actually have to go. I might have to go put 100 on the Cardinals to win the Super Bowl now. Because I just throw it on there.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm a Cardinals fan. I can't I couldn't shake it. I couldn't find it in me to. And then secondly, if I'm being real, the Bills.
That's a fair one.
It's got to be their time to shine.
Even with the Madden curse. Even with the Madden curse and the fact that Josh Allen's not going to play the full season?
I think so. I think that it's just, and especially with the incident last year with DeMar, it's the story this year. So I think the Bills might manifest it, but it's really tough to say this year. It's not it's really a coin toss. So I got to go with my two favorite teams.
Do the Bills need to fold as a franchise if they Jim Kelly again and get to a few Super Bowls where they're really good and never get there? Do they just have to call it a day, join the CFL, and see you later, NFL? Be done with it?
Yeah, that's. I mean, there's part of me that loves it every year. Just all the posts from my friends and family growing up when they get blown out of an AFC conference game. So. I don't know if it will ever be that bad again, but if it is, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I have to say the Bills Mafia is one of the coolest things that happened in the NFL.
Yeah, they seem like a ton of fun.
And going just through tables. Players that join in it, we're Jets fans, so we also love Ryan Fitzpatrick, but obviously Bills fans have such an affinity for him. And just seeing him join the nosebleed crowds, shirt off, just looking like his Tom Brady draft physique self, look at he's one of the smartest dudes around, Harvard grad, and he's just gonna go pound beers and throw people through tables. I absolutely love what the Bills Mafia is. Do you consider yourself Bills Mafia?
I don't consider myself Bills Mafia. It's contagious though. I mean, I would say there's definitely had Bills Mafia moments. I grew up going to RIT. I tell you, we're from a lot of my companies from upstate and Western New York. So we've definitely had tailgates. But now I live in a log cabin in Vermont. I wouldn't say I necessarily live Bills Mafia lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be appropriate, though, if you guys put a short of you choke slamming each other through tables at the office every time the Bills win, just doing, the Bills Mafia stuff. I feel like that'll be a pretty good promotion, just joining in on it.
Yeah. We've talked about creating a little video game, like a flash game, like Table Smashers, where you like smash a table and then, win a gift card or win a piece of signed gear from one of our Bills guys. So it's too good not to happen. It'll happen sometime. Maybe our Series A round.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And like the secret player could be like Fitz, and then Gronk. Gronk did it too. Like that'll be fun. And then Jim Kelly comes in at the end and he's the curse and you can't win the game. Like every time Jim Kelly shows up, the game just ends.
Oh yeah. You don't want to get Jim Kelly'd.
I'm just going to stop being mean to Bills, but I want to jump to some of the other teams because we're obviously Jets fans. So, we have Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of hype going on. What do you think our Jets are going to do this year? Do you think it's more hype and more same old Jets, or are we actually going to do something this year?
Based on the year that Tom Brady went to the Bucks, I think the team will be successful and go deep. It seems like a similar type of situation where you've obviously got one of the best quarterbacks to ever play, who's now got more, I think, equity in the decision-making and overall strategy. And Aaron Rodgers is a super smart dude, and I think an incredible leader on the field. So I think the team's going to be successful, whether it goes to the Super Bowl. That's always, the toughest division. So one injury could derail the entire season. But I think that if you're a Jets fan, it's like, this is as exciting as it gets. So I think even if they can, be above 500 going into the last 5 or 6 games, like I think they'll pull it off and make the playoffs because it's kind of based on what happened with Tom.
I like it. I love that prediction. Keep it going. That was really nice. You talked about the Cardinals. Now, the NFC West is not an easy division. You have, the revamped Jets quarterback, Eugene, doing his thing over with Seattle. You have a guy who I think is going to be figured out, but still playing well in Brock Purdy over in San Francisco. I think Brock Purdy is going to come back down to earth, but I might be wrong. You have a tough division there. What do you think comes out of your division? Like, obviously, you're hoping Kyler has a bounce back year and that you guys play well. D-Hop not being there is definitely going to hurt. But what do you see out of the NFC West and what's going on there?
Yeah, the NFC West, I think, if I had to pick someone to win the division that wasn't the Cardinals, it would be, I think, the Seahawks, and especially again, we work with Kenneth Walker over there on that team, but based on, I think it's really a coin toss between all the teams over there because there's so much shift with the quarterback roles.
Yep.
And I just like the Seahawks, what they've got cooking, and with Kenneth Walker, I'd have to go behind one of our guys there.
Do you ever talk smack to Kenneth Walker? Tell me you do. Tell me you text him and you're just like rooting for you every week, but the time you play my Cardinals. Like,
No way. No, we have athletes on every team now, so I'm pretty agnostic. Honestly, you watch the game, you just root for them not to get injured.
Yeah.
Like that's really it, because football is such a crazy game, anything can happen. But you're just rooting like, hey man, let's make this not a blowout, no one gets injured, and I think then doesn't really matter who wins.
So when
you got guys on every team,
it's almost like a whole different way of playing fantasy football.
Really?
Just don't get injured.
It is, yeah, because like we talk about that all the time because we all obviously have done a lot of sports betting, playing fantasy. So it's like, yeah, we could bet on a team to lose. To a team against one of our guys to win, but then if our guy wins, he does a ton of merch sales. So it kind of
exactly.
We can arbitrage it.
So when you're watching these games, obviously I feel like you have Sunday Ticket or Red Zone, so you can at least watch all your players that you guys represent and market for. When you're watching them, if they do like a big play or have something cool, are you guys automatically on the group chat of like, do we make this a moment? Should we print this up? Or do you have something where it's like, this is a cool moment, make it a tempo. We might scrap it, but let's just get something out there type of deal?
Normally, yeah, it comes internally first from our team, and then we'll push it to the agent and the athlete when we have something polished and ready to go. Because it's kind of an example was Justin Jefferson catch of the year last year when he 4th and 18, had the one-handed catch. That went completely viral. They won. It was the biggest comeback in NFL history. So our team was like, oh yeah, like we need to get going on that right now. So a lot of times we kind of know the moments that we need to jump in and get a head start on, and then we'll send the finished product to Justin and his team to approve rather than waiting for them to come to us. And then, it's 4 days by the time we get it out then.
So Sunday Ticket, NFL Sunday Ticket is on YouTube now. Will you be watching it there? Like, what does that do for you? Anything, or what does that do for you guys as a company too? Does where the games go or where they're on affect you guys at all in terms of the marketing side?
We'll have to pay, I think, close attention to that this year. We have in the past gotten a boost from like mainstream networks when they featured one of our athletes. Like a couple years ago, on Monday Night Football, they did a feature on Chase Claypool, and they put his logo on the screen. His brand and nickname is called Mapletron. So they did like a 2-minute bit on them that normally, like, if we wanted to do, we would have had to pay an agency $100,000. It was incredible.
Nice.
And, we saw for that 30 minutes, his sales go through the roof. So I wonder if YouTube will have that type of pop, and if the kind of production and the media crew, if they're still going to like tell those type of stories about the athletes. So that's where it might affect us, because the reason that YouTube is, they're probably moved there in the first place is because they've got an advertising platform that's, programmatic. So they can show you personalized ads and get better results for advertisers versus the old way of doing it, where you just pay a ton of money to a network and, just spray and pray to everybody. So that it will affect us in some way, but I don't think negatively. I think it's kind of like the social media algorithm. We just have to stay one step ahead of it and try to find ways to optimize it.
Is there something that you look at with your athletes where you have them on YouTube and you might say to them like, hey, it might be smart to look into a spot to maybe get an ad on YouTube, because like you said, it is a lot cheaper than it is to get it on, a network. Is that something where you might look into maybe some of your higher profile athletes, like talking to the agents, like this might be a win-win for everyone if you pull an ad during the game on Sunday Ticket? Is that something you guys have talked about?
Yeah, last year we actually tested advertising for the first time. So we took like our most popular products that we're selling organically, and we put some paid spend behind it to see if we could scale it up. And because obviously the agents and the athletes are not, technical in that sense of being able to create A/B tests, manage hundreds of advertisements. There's people that get paid a lot of money to do that who are really good. And we had some success. So I think that the way we're going to sort of formulate it this year is when we do have a product we think will, have like a 2 or 3x return on our ad spend, we'll work collaboratively with the athlete and the agent. And then we'll have to kind of restructure our fees where, those get expensed from their revenue or their earnings, because obviously at the small percentage we take, we can't afford to then spend 100,000 on ads. We would be really far in the red. So yeah, that's interesting, but we want to definitely focus on that more next year and be in a better position to do that at scale.
Yeah, because I feel like if I'm someone in your position, what the NFL's been doing the past few years would piss me off. Because it's like, here we are, we're on Amazon Prime, or we're here, we're on this, we're on that. Like, we're in so many different areas where before it was like, okay, I know that most of the AFC games, they were on CBS. NFC was on Fox, and your prime times were here. And now it's just like, they're really screwing around with so much that has to like pull your hairs out in terms of a marketing person. Like, now what? How the hell are we going to break into Amazon when they're trying to promote all of their crap and we're trying to do it as well? Is that like, without bashing the NFL, because obviously you need to work with them, but it's like, has that been a real big challenge watching the NFL just every year, like shift so many different ways?
I don't think the NFL's been as big of a challenge as the social media platforms have, because our most of our sales come directly from the athletes' social media accounts. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like the network, the networks aren't promoting our merchandise anyway, the way they would the team merchandise, because they've got those deals integrated with Fanatics. But the social media is very difficult to stay ahead of, because now it's like Facebook and Instagram want you running your products through Instagram Shop, where they take their fee. And, whereas you might have a product on Amazon takes their fee. And then the social media platforms are kind of burying posts that push traffic off of their platform. So they don't want you pushing to an athlete's website where they can't, they then lose that customer or that user. So that's been, I think, more difficult to stay one step ahead, because traditionally the games haven't affected our sales as much as like the algorithms changing. We thought we had this type of post that worked that would do this amount in sales, and then boom, overnight it does 1/10 the amount of traffic, and you got to figure out like what's the next, wave or way to approach it where you're not going to tank the athlete's sales.
So basically, Zuckerberg, Elon, stop being dicks. That's a very nice way to put it. Stop it. Start being nice. Push the right people, damn it.
Yeah. It's challenging for sure. But I mean, same way you guys see the same thing, I'm sure, from your social media growth standpoint. It's, you'll have a post one day that gets like 10,000 views or 100,000 views, and you got to kind of reverse engineer, like, why is it that happened?
Yeah.
And then find the pattern.
It really is. It's hard. And I find too, like, we could have like a good streak of weeks where like, it's not like it is the guest. And then sometimes it isn't, because there's some guests that we have that pop. And it's like, okay, cool. And then there's other guests where I'm like, I know this, this is going to be great. They're big. I look at what the people, when they interact, their numbers consistently. And then they come on and it's like, well, that was significantly less than expected. So it's like, it is weird trying to figure out. And like, I'm not an SEO guru or anything like that. And I feel like the SEO people are really good at what they do. And you guys obviously have a team that's probably racking their brains all the time on how to stay on top of those type of algorithm shifts and everything. Speaking of shifts, running backs in the NFL have taken a huge hit in terms of, I want to say, prominence and kind of the hierarchy of importance, where when I was growing up, I'm a Jets fan. Curtis Martin, running back horse. I met Emmitt Smith when I was younger. That was incredible. Most yards of all time. And there were these times where there were true feature backs. Now, you're representing Kenneth Walker, who is as much of a feature back in the NFL as you're going to find right now. Mm-hmm. What is it like working with him as we see what's going on with like Saquon Barkley and guys like that would be clamoring for, guys like Zeke Elliott, who still aren't signed? What's it like with that market? And why do you see this dilemma going on with the running back right now, when to me, it's still an extremely valuable position?
Yeah, I think the dilemma comes from, the front office looking at statistics, and whether you're deciding at that position, do you want to optimize for depth, or do you want to have that, the one running back that kettlebell that takes on the whole load, like the Marshawn Lynch. Yep. And I think that there are fewer of those type of backs that can do the job of like a Derrick Henry. And if you don't have that, it makes sense to have three backs and it's probably, I don't know off the top of my head, but probably the most injured position too, where one of those guys, one of those guys goes down and your offense isn't completely compromised. Yeah. So I've not actually looked into the statistics as far as that, but that's what I would guess if I was a GM on how I would be looking at it. Like, do you tie? And then I guess on the bright side, it's more of those athletes that are getting, level play. It's not 20 million going to one and then 2 million going to the two other backs. It's like, you're going to want depth. So you'll pay the 4, 5, 6, 7 million to your second and third string guys, which is great for them. So that's kind of my take on it from a statistics standpoint. But obviously, I want these guys to make as much money as possible. I think that's just the most dangerous position. And when you pay that much for if that athlete goes down, your whole season could be ruined. So it's kind of just hedging your bets if you're a front office looking at it. But I think optically, it's also a fun narrative to kind of run with that, like, hey, this position's being disparaged and they're being underpaid when that's the case with some guys, but it's not just because, for no reason. It's and for right or wrong, I think it just comes down to the numbers when the management's looking at it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Dave, you have something there?
Yeah, I was just looking up injury by positions and how many generally get injured, at least percentage wise. And running back's definitely up there. I've seen some conflicting things, like wide receiver might be all cause injuries that get injured the most, but running backs are definitely up there no matter what. And I would venture to say, off of what I've seen, even though it might be wide receivers that get injured more, but it seems like running backs get like the ACL. They get these injuries that get them out for way too long of a time. So that's, I mean, you're correct there. It seems like running backs get injured a whole hell of a lot, and they get injured for a long time. So that's part of the reason why the front office probably is like, we might not be able to just spend.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want the depth. So the third string, they know at the end of the game, they could put in the third string guy and he's not, the whole offense hasn't lost confidence that, they can't get the job done.
Yeah. And I definitely think the shift to the quarterback importance being, passing being more than ever is big. And I think it's not a bad bet because we look at Christian McCaffrey, probably most gifted offensive player in the league outside of maybe, you can argue Justin Jefferson, a few guys up there, but he's definitely up there. But when he's in, incredible. But how often has Christian McCaffrey finished the season? I don't think he's had a single full healthy season in his career. It might be close, maybe one or two. Dalvin Cook, who's a free agent right now, one of the best guys. The Jets, we have Breece Hall. Our offense did change when Breece went down, but it's not like we couldn't function because Mike White was playing good enough passing. So it was like it's an argument to be made that, their impact when they're there, but are they really worth, like you said, the 20 million out front? So it is tough. It is a tough dilemma. And one of the last things that I want to touch on with you, we talked a little about the NIL, how that affects you going in. What do you think that's doing to specifically football with the way the NIL is affecting players? Because they're the ones, outside of that one gymnast, I think she was from UCLA. She, I think, is the highest earner. But I think per capita, your football players are probably getting the most in terms of NIL deals. How do you think that's going to affect the way players go into the NFL if they take longer getting into the NFL now because they're already making millions of dollars? And on your end, kind of, working with these players in the college level, how have you seen it kind of affect their mentality about the NFL?
Yeah, it's been working with them personally has been really rewarding because for some of them, it's the first check that they've been able to earn. They've not been able to make money on their name, image, and likeness prior to the rules changing. So I think it does it's good for our business because they want to double down on building their personal brand and generating revenue while they're in school. And then also, there's more winning schools in college because there are more teams and more conferences. So it's not like the NFL where, halfway through the season, half the teams are irrelevant and nobody wants to follow those athletes, and the athletes don't feel comfortable promoting themselves because they're on a losing team. It's like there are so many winning teams in college sports that it makes it so the athletes have a lot of opportunity to capitalize. And I think that naturally, like you're seeing, it's the schools with bigger markets are going to be a draw for the better athletes.
Oh, yeah.
And also, the way the agency world plays into this is real interesting too, because, if you can bring a guy a $500,000 shoe deal or promise that to him, it gives some agents advantage over other agents. And not that stuff wasn't happening necessarily before the NIL, but now it's just cutthroat. It's like and some of the athletes are being really crafty. Some of them have multiple agents. They've got someone repping them on the marketing side and another agent repping them on a contract side. So I love it. It gives all the leverage to the athletes. I think right now it's kind of the wild, wild west where it's like early crypto in a way where things aren't fully.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like things aren't fully regulated or figured out yet. So there's an opportunity for the athletes, of course, but then, startups like us to make a big impact before everything is, streamlined and figured out through the NCAA. And I hope we can be part of helping them develop a program that's fair for all the athletes, because I think especially it benefits the women athletes because they're not making the type of money the men do when they go pro. So like Angel Reese, like Livy over at LSU, them crushing it, I think, is the real success story out of all of this. Yep. But on the NFL side, I don't think it's not any more distracting for the athletes. I think it's fair. They get to capitalize on, their career, especially if they don't go pro. And I'm all for giving athletes more leverage to, I was actually talking today or the other day, about how Angel Reese, her sales numbers from her merchandise store will give them leverage when they go. She's a free agent and negotiating with the WNBA team.
Oh yeah,
and she earned more in one day in merch sales than the number one WNBA draft pick makes in a year.
Wow!
So now you've got data to show that I can do more in merch sales in one day than, you pay your number one pick in a year.
Yep.
And I hope they're able to negotiate a much higher salary for her and other women athletes. So I think that being able to get those type of numbers before they go pro will be real advantageous to a lot of athletes who can use that in leverage. And especially when they become free agents.
I never looked at it that way before. And I think that's a really, really cool side of it that, you guys are helping provide, these female athletes the ability to do it. That's a really, really cool perspective. My take on it right now, like you said, it's the wild, wild west. For your side, it's pretty cool if you can get that like running back from Richmond and work with him. And then he has a really good year and then he transfers over to LSU. Like, that's awesome for you. I think it kind of sucks for college football, though. The transfer portal needs to be under wraps because it's kind of ridiculous that like players are good here and then all of a sudden, boom, they're going to go to a bigger school. Obviously, the NIL helps them there. That's what they're looking to do, whether or not they crack a starting spot or not. The fact that they go from that small school jersey to wearing an Alabama jersey or wearing a, Florida State jersey makes a huge difference to their profit. They're definitely going to rein this in. I already know the NCAA is talking about that. So it'll be interesting, but for your purposes, it is pretty cool if you can grab some of these individuals that do transfer to bigger schools, because obviously that helps in terms of your marketing. So I think what you do is really cool on a whole lot of levels because you have your hands in so many baskets, and I think it's fun. Have you been surprised about how vast this has actually opened up and become, or did you kind of see this when you jumped into the sports world and are kind of realizing what you saw?
We could always see the opportunity because, like I said earlier, there's 180,000 Division I athletes. There's maybe 5 to 10,000 professional athletes in the United States, and it's even bigger globally. Mm-hmm. And there's not a business software like you've got software for restaurants to take orders and take out. You've got software for salons to accept appointments, but there's not a software for a pro athlete business. Mm-hmm. And that's where it was kind of obvious. And I think we work with the same conviction, that we did when we founded the company 2016. Definitely not all the investors we pitch see it the same way, but that's just the game. You find good investors who and we have who believe in the vision and the platform, and they can help us take it to the next level. So I think it's even bigger than maybe we imagined, because when we started the company, we didn't anticipate the NIL laws changing. Yeah, so that was just incredible, luck and timing that we are able to be here and have a platform that's ready in the middle of that, because our agents started hitting us up being like, hey, we can you guys do a demo for this guy, for this athlete, for that one? Like, hey, we need to, find ways to start showing value to these guys early on now that we're allowed to. So, I think still so much room to grow. We have over 100 athletes now, and like 180,000 is a long way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you got a lot of time to be able to capture every single one of them like Pokemon.
They're all, I tell you, it's all like in the ESPN, database. Like that's kind of where it came from. I was using that to play sports bet and play fantasy sports. So we're like, hey, what if we could just get the entire roster for the NHL or the NFL that's and just awesome. Like click a button and have all their custom brand and merch stores. So that's kind of still the North Star of what we want to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to do a final request, Dave, and then I'll let you do your part, because your part is actually the highlight of the show. Okay. My last request, and this is going to be a favor. So I do another show outside of this one called Talking in Ovals, and it's all about track and field. We interview track and field runners and things, and pros and things. One of our issues in track and field is our pros don't get paid. Outside of a few of the top, Sydney McLaughlin, obviously, she's one of the greatest runners of all time. Noah Lyles, sprinter. You might not even know who the hell these people are. And they're the most prominent people in our sport. Exactly. And that's a problem, right? I'm not telling you to go reach out or anything, but I would like for you to do the research to see if it would be profitable to create brands that would work with you to help these people. Because in the track world, track is massive. It's one of the biggest sports on the planet. Mm-hmm. It has millions of fans. I feel like it's untapped potential. And part of our purpose on Talking in Ovals is to try and grow the sport. So I'm kind of like half and halving, combining the shows here. But I would love for you to look into seeing, because we had Eric Sawinski, who's the best pacer in the world right now. He's been pacing over the last 2 years, world records and country records, just galore. And the races that he paces are incredible. A guy like that having a logo would be insane. And when having a marketing place to go to, I feel like runners would gravitate to that. Clayton Murphy we had on. He's going to the world championships in the half mile. Having a logo for him and promoting, I feel like that's something that might be untapped, that if you guys could tap into, could kind of scratch everyone's back there, because it's a huge issue that nobody knows. For lack of a better term, no one knows who the fuck these people are. And they're some of the greatest athletes in the world. So I'm not saying go do it, but I would love for you to look into potentially tapping into track and field, because, I'm a trackie, and I would love to see the people I've interviewed and the people that I've talked to kind of get a little more, get paid with the pro athletes.
Yeah, I could actually give you a discount, like a code and link for them to sign up to waive all their fees.
There you go.
If we could try 2 or 3 pilot it, see how it works. I'm interested in all those. We kind of group them as Olympic sports, but snowboarding, skiing, we've just started to get a couple. and it is successful just because of how passionate their fans are. Like if they have 15,000 Instagram followers, those are people who have, followed them, who will buy anything that they're pushing. They want to support them. So I'm for it. I love other sports. And
yeah. Sweet. Yeah, we just had Marvin Bracey on, who obviously played for Florida State for a year football. He ended up, after we had him, he won his 100 meter at Diamond League. So it's our luck. It is our luck. It's going on our show that does it. But yeah, that was just my mini request. And awesome. I would love that. I would reach out to them with that discount code and see what they could do and see if you guys could work together. And if it's not successful, it's not successful. But judging by the work you guys do and how hard you guys work, I think you guys accept unsuccessful, which I think would bode well for everybody.
Yeah, I'll hit you up after this and we'll connect via email this week.
Hell yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. So David, best part of the show, go for it. What do you got?
So I got to say, I absolutely hate you because one of my two questions, the one that actually mattered, was going to be about track. I was going to help you, and you jumped right into it before I could. So wild. Maybe we are actually brothers. But we'll go to somewhat non sequitur. It's not a complete non sequitur. What is your favorite meal to have for dinner, either just in general or when you're actually meeting people, like when you met Aljamain?
I got to go with a cheeseburger, just a good cheeseburger. If I'm being more specific, like a barbecue cheeseburger, a rodeo with barbecue sauce, onion rings on it. I think that's probably my go-to favorite dinner meal.
There you go.
That's the most American answer I ever heard.
I love it.
And I love everything about it. That is a fantastic answer. And Dave, what was going to be your track question? I'm curious.
It was basically just going to be if he's ever looked into the track market and if what he ever has seen from that and whether or not he could pursue any of that. But you just hit the nail right in the head there and took it away from me. So that's nice.
We did try to hit up Sha'Carri Richardson's agent. I remember a year or so ago when she became popular, but I think we had missed the wave on that. She just kind of, became a star, was a little too hard to get in touch with at that point. But yeah, I would love to check it out. I'm on board with you. I think we could have a lot of success there.
I'll see any of my connections in track world. We'll work together. We'll see what we could do with that. I don't think we got anything else. Nicholas, thank you so much for coming on, man.
It's a fantastic show.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. We'll definitely keep in touch. I'll make sure we hook you up with some merch before the season this year.
Absolutely. I have one more minor thing to ask you. You talked about betting a little. How do you guys cross over with betting at all with kind of the FanDuel, Barstool, Caesars, DraftKings? Is that something that is any crossover between your marketing, or are you separate, or is that something you're trying to eventually mold into?
Betting, no, not necessarily. I think we're trying to stay on the other side of that with, we've got a partnership with Dick's Sporting Goods. They're the same way. They're not sports betting at all. I'm close with the CEO of DraftKings, Jason Robbins. He's one of our angel investors.
Nice.
So I founded the company with $50,000 that I won playing DraftKings. So
nice. That's
I won 50 G's. I quit. Then I quit my job, got Jason as an angel investor.
Yes.
So we stay close to the sports betting world, but I don't think those guys are just really, elbowing it out over there in that space. And I don't think I have the budget or the attorneys to be able to effectively compete over there. So I think we'll stay on more merchandise fan. And like I said before, probably go over into content creators and other verticals versus go deeper into sports and into sports betting. But love sports betting, everything that's happening in the space. I have so much fun making little bets and but like you said earlier, our business in a way is like the highest stake form of sports betting because we've got guys who actually, their revenue, their business depends on how they play on the field. So I do in a way get the same fix from that, but we're not releasing any sports betting features or products in the future.
Okay. So once again, He's Nicholas Lemieux, CEO and founder of Athlete Studio. And you kind of stole my thunder with the Dick's Sporting Goods. I was going to give you a chance to talk about it before we jump off. So you guys have a deal, an investment deal in partnership with Dick's Sporting Goods right now. What does that entail? What does that mean?
That means that our athletes are going to be able to sell their merchandise in Dick's brick and mortar stores. So it's incredible because it's a new distribution channel other than, their direct website, our direct to consumer platform. And Dick's is an incredible company to partner up with. So they're investing, they're leading our seed round, and we're also have a partnership where we'll be able to bring athletes and their merchandise in store. And they're really investing. I don't know if you guys have seen any of these. They've got these new stores called House of Sport, which have large like turf training facilities, batting cages. It's kind of like the next level of a retail store where they've actually got areas where you can train and where they can host community events.
Nice.
So awesome. I think we'll be working closely with a lot of those new House of Sport locations that are launching, getting our athletes engaged with those communities, getting their merchandise in store. And it's going to just be a complete game changer for both the college and the pro athletes, because the program's going to be accessible to everyone.
And that's pretty cool because that's kind of an expansion on what like Dick's initially was when they came in. Like they were the first sports store with a batting cage you could test your bats in.
Yeah.
And they always had like the mini track where you can actually jog with the shoes a little. So that's kind of a cool expansion. So before we go, is there anywhere that anyone can go to find your full roster of athletes in case now that you're expanding into Dick's, if they want to go and find some apparel from their favorite athlete? Is there anywhere they could find your full roster of athletes so they could see if their favorite athlete is going to be in Dick's Sporting Goods?
Our website, athlete.studio, is the place to go. If you subscribe to the newsletter, we're going to have a big press release and announcement when we formally announce the partnership. And ideally, there'll be 20 to 30 athletes who are in store by the end of the year. And we're trying to combine that with meet and greet, sign merch giveaways, other like incredible fun, fan campaigns that we can use to bring these to life. So athlete.studio is the way to go. And you can subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date on everything.
Awesome. So Dave, any last words before we get out of here?
This is a great show. Learned a lot.
Yes.
Learned a whole hell of a lot, and I'm very happy to have learned all of that because it's useful information. And it's also fun to know you could play fantasy football in a completely different way.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. And I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's like I said, I'll follow up. We'll get maybe we can get a couple gift card codes to give out to the fans and subscribers too.
Would love it. Would love it. That would be great. So once again, Nicholas Lemieux, CEO and founder of Athlete Studio. Remember that name because you're going to see it when when you guys are completely and totally blown up. I feel like Athlete Studio is going to be something big. So I'm happy to have you on, before you got too big for us. But once again, this is the Alex Cuesta Show. Give us a like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials. And we will be back next week as always. So long, everybody.